glasses never touched that table. My hands lost their hold, and down they came with a crash. Every one smashed to smithereens, and I standing staring at Miss Bray. The way she told her story was this. The board deals us out for adoption, and that morning they were discussing a request for Pinky Moore, and as usual, Miss Bray didn't want Pinky to go. You see, Pinky was very useful. She did a lot of disagreeable things for Miss Bray, and Miss Bray didn't want to lose her. And when Mrs. Roan, who was the only board lady truly seeing through her, asked, real sharp-like, why Pinky shouldn't go this time, Miss Bray spoke out like she was really grieved. "I declare, Mrs. Roan," she said, and she twirled her keys round and round her fingers and twitched the nostril parts of her nose just like a horse. "I declare, Mrs. Roan, I hate to tell you, I really do, but Pinky Moore wouldn't do for adoption. She has a terrible temper, and she's so slow nobody would keep her. And then, too," her voice was the Pharisee kind that the Lord must hate worse than all others, "and then, too, I am sorry to say Pinky is not truthful, and has been caught taking things from the girls. I hope none of you will mention this, as I trust by watching over her to correct these faults. She begs me so not to send her out for adoption, and is so devoted to me that—" And just then she saw me, which she hadn't done before, I being behind Mrs. Armstead, and she stopped like she had been hit. For a minute I didn't breathe. I didn't. All I did was to stare with mouth open and eyes out, and then it was the glasses went down, and I flew into the yard, and there by the pump was Pinky. "Oh, Pinky!" I said. "Oh, Pinky!" And I caught her round the waist and raced up and down the yard like a wild man from Borneo. "Oh, Pinky, what do you think?" Poor Pinky, thinking a mad dog had bit me, tried to make me stop, but stop I wouldn't until there was no more breath. And then we sat down on the woodpile, and I hugged her so hard I almost broke her bones. First I was so mad I couldn't cry, and then crying so I couldn't speak. But after a while words came, and I said, "Pinky Moore, are you devoted to Miss Bray? Are you? I want the truest truth. Are you devoted to her?" Devoted to Miss Bray? Devoted? And poor little Pinky, who has no more spirit than a poor relation, spoke out for once. "I hate her," she said. "I hate her worse than prunes. And if somebody would only adopt me, I'd be so thankful I'd choke for joy, except for leaving you." Then she boo-hooed too, and the tears that fell between us looked like we were artesian wells. They certainly did. But Pinky didn't know what caused my tears. Mine were mad tears, and not being able to tell her why they came, I had to send her to the house to wash her face. I washed mine at the pump, and then worked off some of my mad by sweeping the yard as hard as I could, wishing all the time Miss Bray was the leaves, and trying to make believe she was. I was full of the things the Bible says went into swine, and I knew there would be trouble for me before the day was out. But there wasn't. Not even for breaking the pump handle was I punished, and Miss Bray tried so hard to be friendly that at first I did not understand. I do now. That was my first experience in finding out that someone who looked like a lady on the outside was mean and deceitful on the inside, and it made me tremble all over to find out it could be so. Since then I have never pretended to be friends with Miss Bray. As for her, she hates me. Hates me because she knows I know what sort of a person she is. A sort I loathe from my heart. When I first got my diary, I thought I was going to write in it every day. I haven't, and that shows I'm no better on resolves than I am on keeping step. I never keep step. Sometimes I've thought I was really something, but I'm not. Nobody much is when you know them too well. It is a good thing for your pride when you keep a diary, especially when you are truthful in it. Each day that you leave out is an evidence of character, poor character, for it shows how careless and put-offy you are, both of which I am. But it isn't much in life to be an inmate of a humane association, or a home, or an asylum, or whatever name you call the place where job-lot charity children live. And that's what I am, an inmate. Inmates are like malaria and dyspepsia, something nobody wants and every place has. Minerva James says they are like veterans. They die and yet forever live. Well, anyhow, whenever I used to do wrong, which was pretty constant, I would say to myself it didn't matter. Nobody cared. And if I let a chance slip to worry Miss Bray, I was sorry for it. But that was before I understood her, and before Miss Katherine came. Since Miss Katherine came, I know it's yourself that matters most, not where you live or where you came from. And I'm thinking a little more of Mary Cary than I used to, though in a different way. As for Miss Bray, I truly try at times to forget she's living. But she's taught me a good deal about human nature, Miss Bray has, about the side I didn't know. It's a pity there are things we have to know. I think I will make a special study of human nature. I thought once I'd take up botany in particular, as I love flowers, or astronomy, so as to find out all about those million worlds in the sky, so superior to Earth and so much larger. But I think now I'll settle on human nature. Nobody ever knows what it is going to do, which makes it full of surprises, but there's a lot that's real interesting about it. I like it. As for its Bray side, I'll try not to think about it. But if there are puddles, I guess it's well to know where, so as not to step in them. I wish we didn't have to know about puddles and things. I'd so much rather know little and be happy than find out the miserable much some people do. Anyhow, I won't have to remember all I learn, for Miss Katherine says there are many things it's wise to forget, and whenever I can, I'll forget mean things. I'd forget Miss Bray's if she'd tell me she was sorry and cross her heart she'd never do them again. But I don't believe she ever will. God is going to have a hard time with Miss Bray. She's right old to change, and she's set in her ways. Bad ways.
End of Chapter 1. Recording by Jan McGillivray.